Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So just getting back from Convergence, my wife and I went Saturday and Sunday. I had a panel discussion on Ultimate Vision on Sunday, which supposedly went pretty well. I have a few of these videos that I want to do. And so I'm going to start off on this particular point because for whatever reason, every video that I do keeps ending up at this place. So let's talk about this place first. I know there were criticisms leveled at Convergence 2017. I've heard a few of them. And look, we're talking about Debbie. Let's be honest. Debbie has been on a tear on the Convergence conference in Brana. Look, you know I love her to death, so bake all of this into the cake before I say another word. And not just that, people can have disagreements on strategies and all sorts of stuff and still be on the same side and go for the same goal. So that's the second point. But on this, I disagree with her. I really disagree with her. I don't have I don't do stuff with this idea of hope. Like what I see at Convergence is a lot of people who've come together and say the party system is not working for us. It doesn't work. It's a failed attempt at actually trying to get anything done for the better. We need a people's party. That's the spirit of it. Now, Brana did go with the Sanders angle for good reasons. He's going with this kind of Abraham Lincoln model of kickstarting a party. But stepping away from the Sanders thing for the moment, just the principle in and of itself. You have a bunch of people who've come together and say, we want to do something different. We need to do something different. And trying to do something different, those people are bumping heads. They're organizing. They're trying to get something done. They're trying to coalesce. It's nothing there yet. Like, it's not like, you know, the people got together at a conference and all of a sudden you have this new party and, you know, you guys are off to the races. Nobody builds a wheel overnight. Like, there's no situation where you're going to say, hey, look at my new polished wheel that I just created in my basement over. It doesn't work that way. Those things are people coming together and trying to coalesce. It's like anything else. They're going to be fits and starts, and people are going to, you know, sometimes end up with bad blood. Some people are going to disagree. All sorts of stuff is going to take place. Ultimately, what you're looking for, though, is this kind of collection of people who end up becoming more organized. That's what you're looking for. Any solution, think back at any point in history. Started with organization. Now, if you're going to ask me how do people organize, I'd argue they organize like they do anything else. You have a bunch of people who are coming together. They come together again and just try to perfect the process and get better at the process. Convergence is literally the first stone in that process. That's it. That's all Convergence was. A bunch of people coming together saying, we don't like this two-party system. This two-party system is problematic. We need to do something different. Yes, they're trying to organize around Sanders. But it would, put it this way, Cornel West opened it attacking Sanders. When he opened his panel on Saturday night going after Sanders. He was making this point that Sanders should have had somebody here to take this petition, if not himself. I have another video on that part. This one has to do with the criticism itself, though. The option of doing nothing doesn't sound like an option to me. I'm sorry. This is one of those things of parting company. I don't have this belief that people are going to have this emancipatory moment and run to their post offices with their pitchforks. I don't think that at all. They haven't done it yet. And so I don't do this with this idea of this hopeful thing that there's going to be some kind of savior or messiah in the form of Bernie Sanders. I don't do any of this stuff with that idea in mind. I don't have any good faith belief that society is going to persist at all. So understand where I'm coming from here, and I'm making a very specific point. I don't have put it this way. What I'm saying is, I don't have this belief that society is going to fix itself. I think society is going to crater before society rises out of those ashes. My action, the reason I do this stuff, doesn't necessarily have to do because I think I'm necessarily going to win in my lifetime. If people were going to have that kumbaya emancipatory moment where they're going to fill themselves with integrity and they're going to go out and take back their political process in their own hands, I don't have that belief that people do that. Right now, at this very moment, look at right now, current times. You have storms that are battering one state after the next, not to mention in tiny countries. Haiti, Cuba, Dominican Republic, one country after the next is being decimated by those storms. You have another superstorm right after this one. That's 3 back to back to back. Those superstorms gain intensity based upon how we ourselves behave on this planet. That's us. That's all of us. Not to mention animal agriculture. We are doing things that are adversely affecting our living conditions on this planet, dealing with ecology. In another situation, you have, 58% of extinctions, of all extinctions, took place in the last 40 years. Think about that. 58% of the extinctions on this planet took place in the last 40 years. That's us. That's us doing things. They're finding plastic in sea salt. Even if you're looking at us, just us, our physical bodies itself. In the West, sperm cells or sperm count has dropped by 60%. This is our behavior on this planet adversely affecting the ecosystem to which we live. I don't see this emancipatory moment. 50% of the people are in poverty. I don't see an emancipatory moment. If you ask people, is your politician corrupt? They would say yes. If you ask them, do you trust politicians? They will say no. The percentage, meaning the rating, what people give this idea of Congress, what people give media, all of these things are remarkably low. I don't see anybody with their pitchforks. I don't see anyone running to the post office. I don't see it. I see people acting as if Donald Trump taking that office was the end of everything. That he was the worst thing in the history of things, and that he is something fundamentally different than we've ever had in the presidency before. Those people are insane. I'm just saying, those people, however, are believing the myth. Now, until that system gets so fundamentally discredited, so completely and fundamentally discredited, where people, everybody, or the majority at the very least, looks at it and say, this doesn't work. Now, my belief is that society doesn't get to that point before hitting a wall. I don't see it. Like, there's a certain level of willful ignorance in the things that we do in our particular, just in our country, let alone what we do in the rest of the world. So, am I honestly going to believe that human beings are going to, at some point, change without actually going through something that's cataclysmic or catastrophic, or at the very least is brutal enough that leaves a lasting mark? No, I don't. I think people change based on environmental factors, meaning that racist isn't born, that racist is created based on the society the person is in. The aberrant behavior that you're seeing in regards to people acting out, whether you're talking about crime, whether you're talking about drug abuse, those things are a product of that person's society. Those things are not necessarily individualized, meaning it's not just the individual. It's not this person's individual free will and he's just going to take this drug and that person is completely and solely responsible for the things. No, it doesn't work that way. There have been environmental factors that has affected that person. And those things, those people exhibit aberrant behavior. All of us to some degree do. Even if you're talking about people who are super rich, those people have a neurosis. If you have $40 billion and you think you need additional money, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. I'm saying to have a society where the majority of the people struggle and a small minority doesn't, essentially exploits, gets fat off the exploitation of everyone else. And the society still looks at this and said, keep it moving. Yeah, I don't see that changing. At the very least, I don't see a change before hitting a wall. My action in this is because I look at it as there's nothing else to do. I don't consider doing nothing an option. It is an option. I don't think it's a good option. I think you start somewhere. Your goal is to organize and look for opportunities. This is chess. I'm sorry. It's like anything else. What is your objective? Now, do I believe that we're going to have this kumbaya emancipatory moment in my lifetime? No. Do I believe that we will likely hit a wall first? Yes. Does that in any way inhibit me from trying to do something? No, it doesn't. It does not. I don't necessarily need to believe that something is going to change in my lifetime for me to put in some level of work for whatever takes place after to try to be better. And look, I accept my wife may disbelieve this, but I accept that I don't know everything. Meaning, I could be completely wrong. How I measure society could be completely wrong. There could be some emancipatory moment around the corner. I would rather be organized to take advantage of that. In any situation that you're talking about, organization is part of that equation. I would rather be organized. Any critique that's made of Convergence has at the very least accept that that's people trying to organize. That's exactly what people are trying to do. If you're talking about an anti-war movement, if you're talking about any kind of movement, it's not like people come out and there's 100,000 people overnight with this clear idea on what they want to accomplish. That stuff takes time and organization. Convergence 2017 is the start of the organization. You can take issue with them cheering around Sanders. Fair enough. But denigrating the idea that it has merit and worth when the alternative is nothing. Yeah, man. Or let me, I'm not going to say nothing. Or the alternative is this kind of ethereal thing that I can't touch, I can't measure, and I have no idea what it is. In this case, this is this concrete idea, at least. You can say it'll fail. That may be true. You can say it won't work. You can say it's failed in the past. All of that stuff may absolutely be true. I can tell you what definitely will fail, and that's doing nothing. So, and let me say this one last point. One of the clearest things at Convergence was this idea of wanting nothing to do with the two-party system. My wife and I attended 2 classes on election hacking. That class is terrifying. Because ultimately what that class makes you realize is you don't have a democracy. At the very least, you don't have a functioning representative government. So even that was an element of it. Like, it's hard to get across this idea that this is not just one group or one person. This is an aggregation of parties coming together to try to cobble themselves together into something. They're going to bump heads and all sorts of stuff, but ultimately they're trying to cobble themselves into something. Something separate and distinct from the two-party system the way it is. Again, you can say they will fail. But put it this way. I would rather have some vehicle that's attempting to form than nothing at all. And the biggest thing that people have been talking about for progressives or the left or whatever else has been, how do you organize? How do you organize? How do you organize? Right there. That's what they're trying to do. That's literally what they're trying to do. Yeah, and I've been to many of the other festivals, the People's Summit, Left Forum, the Anti-War Conference. The one, I think, distinguishing characteristic in Convergence, it was unequivocal, we want nothing to do with the two-party system. It was a fundamental split. The other forums, yes, had Green Party and everything else, but ultimately, they were beyond this question of, should you try to reform the Democratic Party? No. That's been tried, that's been done before, that's always failed. If you want to get anything done, it needs to be something fundamentally different. The other two parties are fundamentally corrupt. On that premise, I agree with them. I agree with them. And if that's one of those things where it's like, they have, and look, they're going to grow and they're going to get better at it. It's the first one. So yeah, I'm going to keep tabs. And if they ask me to speak again, I would absolutely go in a heartbeat. I enjoyed my experience. And like I said, I don't necessarily do this stuff thinking there's going to be this kind of moment in the sun, you know, this age of Aquarius that everyone is holding hands and everything else. My feeling is like any other civilization, at the point where it crumbles, at some point, some other civilization cobbles itself back together and it learns from the mistakes of the past. Hopefully ideas that are put out somehow makes it through all of it. And those people are better. But that's not necessarily for now. I mean, if opportunities present themselves, yeah, those opportunities should be taken advantage of. But the action itself has to be done more so just because it's right, not necessarily because it's going to necessarily yield to this moment in the sun. So that's morbid, and I don't necessarily mean to be morbid on it. I just kind of wanted to make this point that any plan that's made is done with organization. Doesn't matter what it is. Like any plan that you're conceiving of, doesn't matter what it is. Civil rights, women's rights, workers' rights, whatever it is. The premise of it is always starts with organization. So I like what I saw. Can they do something that's substantial and winning? That's the catch, and that's the question. And ultimately, everyone I came across there kind of had that question of, what do you do, and how do you do it? And not just, you know, this kind of you know, pressure type thing. How do you win? How do you win? The focus of the conference has been, how do you win? How do you translate what's agreed upon in the public into something that's a victory itself? And I don't mean victory from the standpoint of putting this guy in office. I mean victory from the standpoint of having a sustained pressure against the political system itself. We'll see. Keep an eye on it. They're going to grow and they're going to improve. So I will leave it at that. And look, criticism is perfectly okay, man. There's no harshness meant on that at all. And the harshness isn't, well, there's no harshness on it. It's just a disagreement. Personally, yeah, it's just a disagreement. Seeing what they were trying to do. Yeah, I think you should try to do something. Like, so it's not, I'm not in this camp of sitting back because everything is so fundamentally broken and corrupt that nothing can take place, and so, you know, there's no point in acting. That's not where I am. I don't feel that at all. Corrupt, yes. Broken, absolutely. Thoroughly corrupt, yes. Agreed. Does that mean doing nothing? Nope. It does not. It does not. Alright, guys. I'll leave it at that. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, rate, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the work through Patreon. Thank you.